forces. It's simple. We denounce the agreements. Everything starts from there. I think the example of Chad in any case is tangible. They started by denouncing the agreements. Otherwise, if we don't denounce the agreements, just saying that the bases leave, we haven't done anything. Because the problem lies in the colonial agreements, the defenses that have been signed since independence. The most dangerous is not the one you see in the bases. The most dangerous are the military advisors. Military advisors exist in all these countries. They existed in Burkina as well until the end of 2022, until we took responsibility. And who are these military advisors? They are the ones who are supposed to implement France's policy here. They must work to make our armies very weak so that France can always have the argument to exist here. Under their influence, they had succeeded. Our sentinels were therefore standing guard with sticks. That's what France wants from our armies. When we reach this stage, we have no choice but to want them to come and settle. But the Burkinabe army managed to get rid of the military advisors. Unfortunately, I think that in 2019, after Operation Otapono, where the French saw that the Burkinabe army still had the capacity to respond to terrorists, they called the chiefs of staff in France. They instructed him to reintegrate the military advisors throughout the structure. Well, they did not agree.
What's good, African family? Welcome back to the African Wahala. We have quite a few things to share with you, starting with Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore. We know this man has been doing quite a lot of good stuff in Burkina Faso, inspiring many Africans all over the world, letting us know that it's possible to have a lifestyle of dignity, of respect, a lifestyle where we can hold our own and be independent and achieve stuff, just like it was during the time of Thomas Sankara, also from Burkina Faso, until he was assassinated. So Ibrahim Traore is quite an inspiration. And this speech is about, the French influence in the country, which has always existed, but has been detrimental to Burkina Faso and its people up until recently when it was severed. We're also going to be going to the African diaspora because on the African Wahala, we try to talk about not just the continent of Africa, but Africans all over the world. And we're going to be focusing on Mia Motley, the Prime Minister of Barbados. Very inspirational woman as well, doing great stuff, inspiring people, standing up against imperialism, and consciously uniting with the continent of Africa. At the end of the day, if we can come together, it's very difficult, but it's possible. We would be able to accomplish a lot as African people. And we are not going to be pretending like we are not currently in a bad spot, but things are slowly changing. And then we go to Niger Republic in West Africa as well. They staged a coup a couple of years ago. Their leader, Tchiani, has been sworn in as the president for 5 years. Okay. We're going to react to that as well. And then quite a few other stories. But let's go back to Ibrahim Traore, listen to what he has to say.
But upon returning to the country, the politicians instructed him to accept the military advisors. And that's when the military advisors returned to the Burkinabe army in 2019. With all the consequences we know, the army was on the verge of disappearing in the years 2020, 2021. And indeed, this is the time when many soldiers had to desert because there was no longer any hope. We were in the process of collapsing. That's a bit how they work at the General Staff headquarters. In all army headquarters, in the schools, they are the ones who are supposed to dictate the policy of our army. They are the ones who tell us when to recruit, how to recruit, and what to do with them. They are in the schools to tell us how to train them, and so on. As long as these military advisors are there, you are not independent. Your army will just have the appearance of an army that is there to perform parades, a circus. But when war comes, you will realize that a parade is one thing, but war is another thing. You have to break the agreements. It's the only way to have an independent army and build strength. But many people do not understand this, perhaps. And even with these agreements, France selects from our states officer cadets to go and train them. It's through these same agreements. But in reality, these officers who go to train, for the most part for France, they come to serve the French state in their country. They do not come to serve our countries. They train them so that they come to serve the interests of the French state. I can provide evidence of this. When we revolted, many officers in Burkina who were trained in France were immediately contacted to tell them that it was time to take action because you were trained for this, to serve France's interests. Most of these officers reported back to us. We took note and we continued to monitor. When an officer trained in France returns to his country and unfortunately dies, either by accident or on the battlefield. In France, there is a night of tribute to the fallen in the army, as there is everywhere else. During the night of tribute to the fallen, the name of the officer in question is mentioned, and it is said, died for France. They do not train him to serve his country. They train him to serve their state. And in many African states, there are plenty of such officers.
So it's crazy. I mean, how did that happen for so long that an independent country is being influenced by another country, the colonizer? The former colonizer has so much influence that they are able to have full control of the military officers, and those military officers recruit younger men to join the army, and all what they are doing is to serve the interest of the former colonizer. So when Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali staged the revolution, people call it a coup, but it was a revolution to clean up the system, to make sure that they were truly independent. And it's also extremely crazy if you think about it, that as an independent country, you can't even provide for yourself. You have this relationship with your colonizer that has existed for over 100, 200 years maybe, and has always been beneficial to your colonizer while you remain poverty stricken. It's unsustainable. So we have to respect Ibrahim Traore for what he has done. Not just Ibrahim Traore, the guy from Mali, Goita, and the guy from Niger Republic, Tchiani. And we're going to go into Tchiani shortly. He was sworn in as a democratic president. I have a few things to say about that, but when we get to that segment, we'll talk about it. Okay, because in all fairness, a lot of us are traumatized by past military experience, and we don't want to be in a situation where we fall into the same trap again. But let's keep watching.
We knew this all along, but the world needed to see it as well. So Ibrahim Traore is the proof we needed to show the world how wicked our leaders are. Wicked. You've been in office for what? 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years with nothing to show for your people. This man came into office for 2 years. 2. He's manufacturing everything from his country. Detergent, soap, tomato, grains, pasta, cars, electric cars, and now an airline, Burkina Faso airline. At this point, there's really nothing else to say. Yeah, you all gotta go. All of you gotta go. There's no exception. We knew this all along.
So this brother here shares my exact sentiments. Sick and tired of these African politicians. It's the same thing. They stay in power for so long, nothing to show for. Now we have Ibrahim Traore, just a couple of years, and he has already made a dent in the system. So the problem obviously has to be that these guys work for the imperialists against their own countries for the benefit of the imperialists. And at the end of the day, they remain rich. I'm talking about the wealthy African politicians, while majority of their citizens remain poor. If in a couple of years Traore has been able to build all these things to show the possibility, the potentials of an independent African country, then all these other guys, especially in the ECOWAS bloc, the West African bloc, I mean, a young Ibrahim Traore, not even up to 35 years old, very intelligent, eloquent, as you saw in the videos, he's putting all these guys to shame. For so long, we've remained at the bottom, poor, not having anything, you know. But then a guy like Traore comes through the picture and shows us that it's possible to be done. He's inspiring. So it's almost like a celebration of Traore for what he has done so far, but also to show you some quotations from Traore so you can understand why people love this man.
Take the effort to always be alongside the private sector. It's also a message to encourage them to continue in this direction because they have understood our message of industrialization, of creating jobs for the Burkinabe youth. Investing is a risk. Every investment is a risk, but one must have boldness and courage. And if they had the courage to invest, it doesn't go unnoticed, as he so rightly said. I think the ministry has also done everything to support and advise them. And with the postal bank as well, as he mentioned, this is a message to tell others who are still hesitant to venture into industrialization that now is the time, because this is the very first detergent production unit in Burkina Faso. Since Burkina has existed, we have been importing detergents. How many jobs are created, and the national market needs these detergents? So we will continue to encourage all those who have taken the initiative to venture into industrialization, support them, and help them move forward so that our country becomes industrialized and prosperous. This is what led us to be present and to help support them.
You might think it's not a big deal for a country to be celebrating the building of an industry that creates detergents. I know a lot of people around the world might look at it like, is that a big deal? Why are you guys celebrating having a detergent factory in your country? It is a big deal. He said since independence, they have imported in detergents into the country. And this same ideology affects every aspect of the economy. You even find countries where, obviously African countries have tons of natural resources, gold, diamond, platinum, cobalt, everything that you can think of. But the African countries are unable to convert those raw materials into consumable products. For the most part, these raw materials are taken out of the ground by European, American, and Asian companies. The raw materials are shipped all the way to their countries, converted into consumable products, and sold around the world. So a country like Burkina Faso that probably has all the ingredients to create a detergent factory would have to buy the detergent at a much more expensive price from France, for example. And for the first time, they have the capacity to take the raw materials out of the ground, take it to a factory, convert it into a consumable product in the detergent, and use it for themselves and possibly start exporting. It's going to create jobs for the people in Burkina Faso. It's going to bring in revenue for the country, and it's only going to grow the economy in general. So it's not a big deal. Small steps are better than no steps at all. Shout out to Ibrahim Traore. The man is doing a great job in Burkina Faso. I'm extremely proud of him personally, and millions of African people are proud of Mr. Ibrahim Traore. That's a leader. All these old hags, all these old farts that have been in power in majority of our countries, they've proven to be useless. And I have no respect for them, and I expect you not to as well. So check this out. Emmanuel Macron said, we must strengthen our friendship with Captain Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, and convince him to authorize the installation of our military bases in his country. That's what Emmanuel Macron said. Ibrahim Traore's response: but you're already friends with the United States, Great Britain, Brazil, Canada. Do you have military bases in these countries? It's a crucial question. I mean, we all know the answer to the question. It's almost a rhetorical question. Strong people go for weak people and take advantage of them. That's just the law of nature. It's the way the world is designed. It's part of human nature. And for the most part, unfortunately, we Africans, we've not really been strong, especially in the last 500 years. We've been having it bad, I'll be honest. And countries like France have taken advantage of some of the weakness for so long, until we have a strong man like Ibrahim Traore coming through and using common sense to tell France to fuck off. You have to be proud of Traore. Great job, Mr. Traore. Great question. It's obviously a rhetorical question. Those guys have no answers, we understand, right? But we are very proud of what you're doing. If you guys really need military bases, I'm talking about France and Macron, if you really need military bases around the world, how about you go build your military bases in the United States of America? After all, you guys are supposed to be friends. Mr. Donald Trump, the current president of the US, seems like he's enemies with everybody right now, including France. Maybe that was the reason you were reconsidering building your military bases somewhere else. But funny thing is, before the revolution, France had its military bases in all these countries. Like in the first video that I showed, the captain was explaining that the top military guys worked for French interest. They were trained in France. They recruited young guys to join the military. And when those young guys died during combat in France, the French government would recognize them for fighting for France, not for Burkina Faso. And maybe that's why, one of the reasons why the country remained the way it was up until recently. Yes, it's not been the greatest, but they are approaching a point where there seems to be some hope.
De la République du Niger, Tchiani.
La durée de la période de la refondation est fixée à 60 mois à compter de la date de sa promulgation. Cette durée est modulable en fonction de la situation sécuritaire, du cahier des charges de la refondation et de l'agenda de la Confédération des États du Sahel.
So what do you feel about that? The president, or rather the head of the military, should I call them a junta? I'm not going to use any disparaging word against these guys that staged the revolution in the AES. The AES is made up of 3 West African countries: Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. these three countries came together after all of them staged revolutions and kicked out imperialists. And they decided to take their future, control their future for themselves. So, with that said, one of the countries is Niger Republic, and we have its leader being sworn in as a president. Obviously, it wasn't democratic, but we can also argue that democracy, the process of democracy, according to the Western construct, does not work in Africa, period. It just doesn't work. So, based on the democratic principles, I personally, and I'm pretty sure millions of African people don't give a damn about that. We don't care about the fake democratic system, because the only thing that the fake democratic system has yielded is continuous poverty, hopelessness, and stooges in the forms of leaders of African countries. For example, Nigeria. Nigeria has had back to back horrible presidents that are known criminals. These known criminals came in through democratic process, quote unquote, democratic process. They often, not even often, they all the time rig elections blatantly with impunity to get into those positions. Even though the entire world knows their track record of criminality and electoral rigging, they still get welcomed with red carpets when they go visiting so-called democratic countries like the United States and France. So if that is not hypocrisy, the US especially, well, under Donald Trump, things have changed drastically in the last couple of months. But the United States and France have historically told African countries that you need to practice democracy because a democratic system is the way to go. It's the way that gives you human rights. And Nigeria, practicing its fourth republic since 1999, so 26 years of democracy, and the people's lives have diminished to a very large extent after 26 years of continuous democracy. So it's safe to say that the democratic system does not work in Africa, but I digress. Back to Ibrahim Tchiani. Sorry, I don't know if his first name is Ibrahim, but I'll call him Mr. Tchiani. He was sworn in as a president for 5 years. Looking at this picture in his military regalia, I actually like it. It doesn't look deceitful. Let me explain what I'm talking about. These events have happened in the past where a military coup happens, and then the guys that are in charge, the leaders of the coup that are the heads of the government during the transition period, they end up creating a fake election process, having people vote, and then they have a landslide victory. 90% of the votes casted are for the military leaders. So they end up taking off the military regalia and dress up in agbada, what this man in white, the man in white hat, white dress, what he has on is called agbada in Yoruba language. They dress up in agbada to portray themselves as democratic leaders, but it's all fake. It's all a ploy. And then after being in charge as so-called democratic leaders, they put the people in penury, destroy the infrastructure, the security infrastructure, destroy the economy, loot billions, and invest all that money in foreign countries. In Europe, United Kingdom, France, and the United States. Those are the beneficiaries, and Switzerland, I forgot. for the most part, these countries are the beneficiaries of these loots. So we've seen this happen before. And it raises questions. It makes you a little bit suspicious. But there are two things that I'm going to mention that neutralize my suspicion. The first thing is, the man is not in an agbada trying to deceive the people like he's a Democrat. No, he's not trying to do that. He has his military regalia on during his swearing-in ceremony. They also mentioned that this is a transitional period for 5 years. Yes, when the revolution was staged, there was supposed to be a transitional period, but this is another transitional period after that first transitional period, right? And the 5 years is flexible. That means it can be changed. So with all of that being said, combining the fact that the man isn't deceitful, dressed up like a so-called Democrat, the fact that Niger Republic is in alliance with Burkina Faso and Mali, I personally feel like it reduces the chances of Tchiani to deviate from the plans of the AES, because the AES is a confederation and they would be able to hold one another accountable. But maybe I'm just dreaming, maybe I'm wrong, because we've had disappointments for decades after decades after decades. Hopefully, this wouldn't be one of those disappointing times with Ibrahim Tchiani being sworn in as the president of Niger Republic. Good luck to Niger Republic. We are rooting for you, wishing you nothing but the best. Now we're going to jump to Namibia. I'll show you the new president. She's a woman of action. She got sworn in as the president, and she already had some executive orders just to showcase some resilience. And you also need to remember that Namibia, being one of the Southern African countries, beautiful climate, beautiful people, one of the most popular ethnic groups in Namibia, the Adzabes, I might be pronouncing it wrong, apologies. They are popular. We see them all over the internet. Namibia is an awesome country. They have strong ties, usually not to the benefit of Namibia, obviously, with Germany. So listen to what the new president, she just got sworn in a couple of weeks ago. Listen to what she has to say.
Just days after her inauguration on March 21st, Namibia's...
Apologies. She didn't have to say anything. This is an AI voice, but it properly describes what she has done since she got sworn in. And if you remember, the former president passed away. That's why he was replaced by this woman.
New president Nandi-Ndaitwah has wasted no time flexing her muscle, sending shockwaves through the corridors of Western power. Picture this, a leader who, like Captain Traore, isn't here to play nice with the old colonial playbook. While Traore has been kicking out French troops and reclaiming Burkina Faso's gold from neo-colonial clutches, Nandi-Ndaitwah is stepping up with equal audacity in Namibia. Her moves are loud, they're proud, and they're unmistakably African. From wresting control of Namibia's booming oil and gas sector, to demanding accountability from Germany for the Namibian genocide, to slamming a visa requirement on US citizens starting April 1st, 2025, this system means business, and the West is scrambling to keep up. First, let's talk about the oil and gas power play. Over the weekend, President Nandi-Ndaitwah didn't just reshuffle her cabinet. She restructured the very machinery of the Namibian state to bring the oil and gas sector under her direct control. You heard that right, comrades. In a statement that reverberated across the continent, she declared, "The new emerging industries of oil and gas need to be managed in a manner that maximizes benefits for all Namibians. Therefore, the management of these industries will fall under the office of the president." This isn't just a bureaucratic tweak. It's just...
The world is changing, you know. Like, most countries are beginning to sway towards, oh, nationalism. We want to be by ourselves. We want to take care of our countries. Our interest comes first. And it's going, the popularity of the nationalism is swaying towards Africa as well. And it's a good thing. I mean, who's going to pretend like African countries have not been exploited enough? Exploited for so long, and we are never the beneficiaries. We are always the ones that are at the bottom, the ones that are poor, underdeveloped. So you have to give Madam Ndaitwah, the president of Namibia, some credit for coming in and implementing two things. Number one, isn't it crazy that countries like the United States of America that makes billions from visa applications from African people and refuse like 90% of the visa applications anyways. They make tons of money from visa applications, but United States of American passports can travel to Namibia visa free, or I guess they apply for the visa at the point of entry. But the Namibian citizen cannot travel to the United States of America without a visa before leaving their country. It just tells you how it's very, very important for people to build their strength so they can be respected. I've been talking about Ibrahim Traore for like 30 minutes. We have another great leader. Well, maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself, but the first couple of executive moves that she made, highly respectable. The visa situation, reciprocating. If you're not going to give us a visa-free access to your country, then you also have to apply for a visa before coming to our country. That is fair. That makes a lot of sense. And trust me, tons and tons of people from the US, from Western countries, flock to Namibia. People from Germany, you'll be surprised how many hundreds of thousands of German people are in Namibia. They call Namibia home. They don't even want to go back to Germany because they have it good in Namibia. Meanwhile, the Namibian people, the majority of them, are not doing good in their own country. So yes, that was a good move. Also, the oil and gas situation, nationalizing the oil and gas production for the benefit of Namibian people. Of course, that's respectable. Why would you have a natural resources? Like I said earlier, we have tons of resources, gold, diamond, platinum, cobalt, oil, everything that you can imagine, but we are still the poorest. So when we have leaders like this, boy, oh boy, highly respectable. Congratulations to Madam Dubois. Love what she's doing. That's how it's supposed to be. We're going to go to our next story quickly. And we are wrapping up this conversation. We are going to the African diaspora, our cousins in the Caribbean islands, in the country of Barbados. Whoa, they have a great president in Barbados, Madam Mia Motley. Very inspirational woman. I'm just going to play a couple of clips so you can see a couple of things that she's doing. But first, actually, I'm going to show you something. Don't get infuriated with what I'm about to show you. Don't get super emotional. It's part of what I was talking about as far as your powers. If you're weak, you will be taken advantage of. You're never going to be respected. So this video is some Europeans in South Africa burning the South African flag in South Africa, saying, oh, we want our own country. You know, South Africa historically has been one of the most European African country. They have settlers from Netherlands, Germany, England, all parts of Europe. Many of them have been there for hundreds of years. They don't even want to go back to where they're from. I mean, if you ask me personally, I'll be honest. I'll be very, very honest. As a matter of fact, let me play that video first and I'll give my take on this. Bro, These guys literally have the flag of Netherlands. That looks like the flag of Netherlands or maybe Croatia or something. It looks like the flag of a European country. They burned down the flag of South Africa in South Africa. They are called the Afrikaners, and they are showcasing what they want to be their flag. They are basically trying to take away part of the land of South Africa. And you find a lot of them arguing with South African people about, oh, we got here first before you guys. Oh, you Kosas, you got here after us. We, the settlers from Europe, we got here first, so we own the land. This is the type of mentality that people have. And they have some backers. You know, the president of the US, Donald Trump, has been supporting them. This is the stock of people that Elon Musk emerged from, just so you know. The so-called wealthiest man in the world, he's from this stock of people. Hateful, burning the South African flag. You migrated somewhere and you're trying to carve out land for yourself where you settled. It's like you find a bunch of it's like you find, you know, there is a huge Yoruba population in Peckham in England. So imagine those Yorubas in Peckham burning the British flag in Peckham, bringing up an Oduduwa flag and saying, Afe Ilewa, we want our land in Peckham. We want our country in Peckham. They look stupid, but I'm not going to give it too much energy. This is currently going on in South Africa. It's actually serious, okay, because people are losing their lives over this issue. And they seem to have some backers. It'll be smart if many other African countries come together and find a solution to this. And I'll give my final take. If these settlers had been, you know, just regular, decent human beings that, you know, you integrate into the society, you're respectful to the people, you know, your hosts, you showcase decorum, you're not, you know, you don't have a mentality of supremacy. Oh, I'm better than you, I'm richer than you, you guys are poor, I'm better than you, we can't live in the same country, we want our own country, we want separation. If they were respectful to the people of South Africa, people wouldn't have a problem with living with them. But unfortunately, they are not. And they will get what they deserve eventually.
Days after her inauguration.
Apologies, I just showed you a wrong video. I'm going to show you the video of Prime Minister of Barbados next, Madam Mia Motley. Madam Mia Motley, very, very conscious woman. You're going to be inspired by these videos, trust me.
Ambassadors and guests all. I stand here clothed in the spirit of the battles of Adwa, conscious that it was that battle within 24 hours that shook the confidence of the powers of Europe, but inspired the people of Africa and the children of the African diaspora that good would prevail over evil and light over darkness, but only in the context of our unity. I stand here conscious that it was that battle that forged the beginnings of Pan-Africanism that eventually led to the movement for independence and the destruction of the colonial powers to give us not full development and power, but the first steps of political independence. I stand here conscious and buffeted by the dreams and works of the great Pan-African pioneers, and conscious that as a children of the Caribbean, we have long dreamt for the moment of unity with our brothers and sisters of Africa, a division that was secured by those whose success and survival depended on separation of us rather than on the ability for us to act as one common people.
Whew, aren't you inspired? I mean, on a real, I'm so proud. Although I personally think the African Union has a lot of defects, so many things wrong with the African Union. The headquarters is located in Addis Ababa. The building, the headquarters of the African Union was built, or there was a huge contribution by the Chinese Communist government in the construction of the headquarters of the African Union. So there are so many things wrong with the African Union. However, I really, really appreciate the fact that they bring in the people from the Caribbean islands, like Madam Mia Motley, to speak and inspire people. This unity is extremely needed, especially right now. We're not going to pretend like we're not seeing what's going on in the world. Former allies, the people that colonized us for so long and put us in the poverty that we are in and the perpetual confusion, they are now enemies, all thanks to Mr. Donald Trump. Once Trump came into power in the United States of America, he turned his back against everybody. Oh, I don't want you to be my friends anymore. France, Canada, Germany, Western Europe, America first. So they are beginning to have some problems. I'm not saying those problems are going to last because anything can change at any time. But the fact that they are having problems, and we African people on the continent and in the diaspora, we should be working towards uniting, because something good is going to come out of it if we can unite. So I'm very, very happy personally that she's able to go on the stage in African Union, inspire those African leaders. A lot of those African leaders are, I'm not going to be too disrespectful in this video, but they are quite useless, okay? But if she's there inspiring them, maybe that would spark something in their heads and they might start behaving themselves. But let's see some more inspirational quotes from Prime Minister Mia Motley.
For me to deliver today, it would be a repetition of what you have heard from others and also from me. Equally, how many more times will we then have a situation where we say the same thing over and over and over to come to naught? My friends, we cannot do that anymore. How many more variants of COVID-19 must arrive? How many more before a worldwide action plan for vaccinations will be implemented? How many more deaths must...
So this speech was during the time of COVID-19. You know, unfortunately, a lot of us have been unaware of some good leaders that we have, like Mia Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados. And, you know, she's here on the world stage just saying some things about COVID-19. I'm going to show you another video shortly, and you can have more context as to the type of person she is. This is just me celebrating Mia Motley.
Does it take before 1.7 billion excess vaccines in the possession of the advanced countries of the world will be shared with those who have simply no access to vaccines? In the words of Robert Nesta Marley, who will get up and stand up? Who will get up and stand up for the rights of our people? Who will stand up in the name of all those who have died during this awful pandemic? The millions. Who will stand up in the name of all those who have died because of the climate crisis? Or who will stand up for the small island developing states who need 1.5 degrees to survive as we go to COP26? It is not beyond us to solve this problem.
Now, listen, I might not necessarily agree with, everything she's talking about, because she said something about climate crisis. She said something about the vaccines. It turned out that the vaccines had a lot of controversies. A lot of people did not want to take the vaccines, but they were forced to, which is illegal. Turns out that a lot of people did not have to put that stuff in their body, but they were forced to. Developed countries, developing countries, same stories. So she might not be 100%, rather, I might not 100% agree with her when she's talking about vaccines or the climate crisis. Yes, there is some climate situation going on, climate change as a result of anthropogenic activities. But is it really a crisis like some people are pushing it? Anyways, I digress. Let's go back to another video of Mia Motley. Most importantly, the fact that she speaks the way she speaks. I love it and I'm inspired. And I thought I shared her with you to know that you have some bold African leaders, bold leaders from the Caribbean islands or the global African family that are ready to put themselves in uncomfortable situations to challenge the status quo. And I really appreciate that.
Percentage of assets within a large percentage of assets within the United States of America, and a large amount of their treasuries as well. So for you to focus on the Caribbean or Africa with China without recognizing the role that China is playing in Europe or in the North Atlantic countries is a bit disingenuous, and really reflects more that we are seen as pawns, regrettably, rather than countries with equal capacity to determine our destiny and to be part and parcel of that global conversation to fight the global issues of the day, like climate and the pandemic.
All right, well, that's put me in my place, hasn't
No,
it?
not at
Prime
all,
Minister
Vidal.
Mia Motley. Thank you.
Not at all, my dear.
That's all right, thank you. We'll go to our next question. Provide me with a bit of relief.
Prime Minister Mia Motley of Barbados. But what do you guys think about the videos? We talked briefly about, apologies about my messed up camera. We talked briefly about Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, some good things that he has been doing, some things that he has accomplished, the revolutionary spirit that he has, and how much of an inspiration that he is. We also spoke a little bit about another country, well, part of the Confederation, the AES, Niger Republic. The leader of the military that was in charge for the last couple of years, 2 years, Tchiani, he was sworn in as the president for 60 months in terms that are flexible, according to them. What do you think about that? From a military leader to a president, but the president has the military regalia on. What do you think about that? And then obviously we talked about Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Motley, just showcasing her, celebrating her pretty much for standing up for African people, for trying to unite African people. She's always talking about, we need to bring in some unity, African people all over the world, North America, South America, continent of Africa, Asia, wherever you are, we need to come together. I mean, we've all been saying this for so long, but it sounds like it's almost impossible to achieve. But if we are able to achieve that unity, we would get a lot done. And I just thought I celebrated these people. So tell me what you think in the comment section. If you like this content, click on the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Let me know what you think, your thoughts in the comment section. Peace. Thanks for watching the African Wahala, and have a good one.